bring this over here. Oh, I've managed to hide chat because I'm a genius. I forgot to mute sound. Need to do that or it drives me crazy. Hey, good timing.
Suddenly starts speaking mercy.
Oh, I cannot say the mercy rest line. I just cannot physically say it. I still can't. Like Helden Sterben nicht. It's nicht that gets me because I want to do the Dutch, which is like nicht, like the Dutch pronunciation or the Dutch way you pronounce something spelled like that would be nicht. My instinct is to go to that, not to like nicht. Zarya, she's over here. Emotes, just do dance. Hide, bring chat back. Anyway, thank you, Emesh, for the sub as well. Thank you for sticking around for 7 months as well. Holy shit. It's a long time. We're getting up there. Okay. Let's start this. Let's start the questions. Let's go. Vlogos, with D.Va being so prevalent, why is Zarya not being used as a counter? Like, this is a fucking superb question, because Zarya does a good job against the against D.Va. Like, she can stop D.Va diving on stuff. She can peel for dive. She can kill Genjis relatively effectively. She can kill Tracers relatively effectively. She can kill Winstons pretty well. She's actually pretty good as a counter to dive comp. The issue is simple. It's twofold. First, Zarya is vulnerable to Tracer, which sounds insane because I just said that she's relatively good at killing Tracer. Like, if you're good with the tracking and you can just keep the beam on Tracer for any period of time, she's forced to recall. If you right-click, she's forced to recall. You can also peel targets, like you just put the bubble on the target that Tracer's shooting, and then Tracer has to back away. But this is the problem, is that Tracer backing away is very easy for the Tracer. She just has to wait the bubble out, and then she can go back in and get the kill. So the peel you provide is very short-term. And the more important fact is this, the peel you provide for yourself is also extremely short-term. Once Zarya is forced to bubble, and the bubble is down, Tracer, Genji, and Winston actually have a relatively easy time bursting her. Because she's slow, she's big, and she doesn't have that many hit points. So when the bubble is down, that period of vulnerability just means that she can be exploded. Whereas D.Va can self-protect a lot better. Winston can jump away a lot better. Winston has a bigger heal target as well, a lot easier. And so the problem is that Zarya is like, she's good in sort of a weak dive. Like if people are bad at playing dive, she'll be pretty strong against it because she'll just buy you the time you need to get the counter swing in. But D.Va can do the same thing where she can peel for targets just as well, but still have the survivability herself, and she can peel for longer, and she's less vulnerable to the Tracer due to her armor, due to the fact that she can run away a lot easier, due to the fact that, you know, her hitbox is huge, but the armor prevents the damage. She can be healed more. She's slippier, I guess, and she's just harder to finish off. The second reason why Zarya is being used less is because she's just slow. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, her ultimate charge is one of the slowest in the game, if not the slowest in the game. I think it is the slowest in the game. And as a result, you just don't get as huge a benefit off it as you do trying to do other things. And you might think, well, self-destruct is kind of a shitty ultimate. It's still relatively good at point clearing. It's not like the huge value of D.Va. D.Va just provides more value. And the problem as well with Graviton Surge, with D.Va being prevalent in the meta, is that like you have a slow ultimate that just becomes even slower as now you're forced to try and play around and try and beat this D.Va. And so the idea is that if you pick Zarya to try and counter a D.Va, you are weakening yourself against the other more important picks like the Tracer, and so the Tracer just comes in and cleans you up. Whereas D.Va just stands more on her own, can fight more on her own, and just be more flexible and do more on her own. That's kind of, to my mind, at least that is the explanation that I've used to been given of why Zarya is picked less at higher level, or in pro level. What I will also say is that in most tiers of play, up to Grandmaster probably, it really probably doesn't matter. Zarya will still be very effective. You'll still be able to peel for targets pretty goddamn well. You'll probably be able to kill the Genjis pretty easily. Tracer might be a bit trickier. You'll be able to kill Winstons. Zarya is still relatively effective, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Zarya doing very well against dive comps. So I would say this much. If you are focused on playing in competitive and you are not at the highest ranks, Zarya is okay. And I'll also say this. Even though Zarya is not huge in the meta right now, Zarya very much, like, Zarya has never swung into being like a terrible fucking hero. She's always been pretty goddamn good since beta because she has huge team play potential, she has good kill potential, she has huge momentum. She basically, once you start winning and you have Zarya, you can just start winning harder. She's just very, very, very powerful. So do not be dissuaded if you're a Zarya main. You could probably still get away with playing Zarya a lot in ranked and still do a lot with her. Does trying to main one group of heroes, say healers only, seem a good idea? Or should I try and be more flexible in your roles? You should try and have some flexibility. Like, the issue with playing nothing but supports is that there's only supports in the team. It also gives you a very limited window into how the game functions. So, you know, when a new player says to me, you know, what hero should I learn? I generally point Soldier 76 first, and then I'll say, like, Reinhardt and Mercy. The reason is, I think everyone should have at least some understanding of how to play Reinhardt, how Reinhardt functions, how Reinhardt should be behaving when he's looking to do some, when he's looking to Earthshatter, when he's playing defensively, all this kind of stuff. I think people should have a fundamental understanding of how Reinhardt works, because Reinhardt dictates a lot of how the game flows. And so when you understand Reinhardt, you kind of understand how teamfights operate, how ultimates operate, how positioning operates. And so Reinhardt can inform you on all these different aspects. And so what you'll find is if you play, if you're like me, for example, I play Lucio, Ana, and Zenyatta, which is most of the supports. You notice I don't play Mercy. I play these 3 supports, but I also am very happy to play Tracer. I'm also relatively happy to play Genji. I'm also relatively happy to play Soldier. I can play Reinhardt, I can play D.Va, I can play Zarya, I can play Roadhog. I have a very, very large hero pool. And what it gives me is a lot of insight when I see a Roadhog positioning for something. I know what the Roadhog's looking to do. I know exactly what he's up to because I've played that character. And, you know, I'll use a WoW example because I've been playing WoW recently myself. When you've played a class and you see that class trying to do something and you know what their abilities are and you know how they work, it's very easy to read what that class is going to be doing. It's exactly the same concept in Overwatch. When you've played that hero a couple of times in a competitive environment, or even just a shitload in quick play will give you some idea, then you can understand how it functions in the team, what it's looking to do, and what goals that hero is trying to achieve. Therefore, you can react better when you are playing on your main, when you are playing your support hero, and you can understand, hey, this Tracer is going to do this. And as a result, you get moments where you can just nail Tracers with sleep darts, or you can nail Tracers with fire strikes, which I'm desperately going to look up at the moment. I'll go to my own tweets. Tweets, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Give me the clip. This here. Stop here. I'm going to bring this on. So this is a game from the stream the other night. Should be 2 ohms on the screen now. Hello. And so it's just very easy for me to read the Tracer. Recalls 3 seconds ago. I know about where it is. I know where she was positioning. Got him. Easiest fire strike of your life. You'll start doing stuff like this a lot, for example, if you play Tracer. And you'll see Reinhardt, like, Tracer starts to get more predictable if you do play a lot of Reinhardt, but just playing a bit of Tracer as well will inform you amazingly on doing that kind of stuff. Okay, if you bubble a Genji when he's deflecting, does he still deflect through your shield, or does it block him from reflecting? He still reflects, but I don't think you actually gain ultimate charge for a deflecting Genji, unless the damage is going through. The reason why is because Genji's deflect works a little bit differently to how most things work. Let's bust some myths. So first things first, a Reinhardt who has his barrier up, if you bubble him, you'll still gain charge, which is nice. Winston, no, you won't, unfortunately, unless he's actually poking out of the bubble. But a Reinhardt, you will gain charge. So if someone's like smashing into the Reinhardt with a shitload of damage, just put a bubble on him, you'll get the charge. The reason why Genji doesn't is because of how the mechanic works. So let's pretend that Zarya, who's doing some lovely posing, let's put her in a bubble. Okay, so she's in the nice bubble right now, and she's doing a Genji deflect. The way Genji deflect works mechanically is it basically makes a barrier in front of Genji. And it's actually like a good significant portion higher than Genji as well. Then anything that hits it is deflected back off to where the Genji was deflecting to. And where this deflection is actually in front of where the barrier ends. So it actually does cover, like, it's probably, if I do, it's probably more like this. And so anything that hits it will not actually make contact with the barrier, I do believe. If something goes through the deflect, like if it's a Zarya or a Winston or something like that, then it will charge you up, but I don't believe that shooting a deflecting Genji will deflect before it will charge a barrier. Same with D.Va as well. If she's put defense matrix up, it's kind of exactly the same situation. Bubble, and then defense matrix in front of it. Projectiles come in, and then they just, you know, pop. Gone. Don't even know what I drew there, but it's gone. So it don't happen. How many Israeli viewers do you coach? Probably just you. I don't think I have any other Israeli viewers. I'll be very surprised if I do. There might be someone on YouTube, like there's a lot of YouTube viewers. Probably won't watch the Q&A, but still. Most of my viewers are actually American, then British is the second highest demographic, then I think it is Germany. Is Zarya still worth learning? Yes, absolutely. Zarya and Diva are both tanks that somewhat deny plays, is that correct? Partially. I think Diva is a better phrasing for deny. Zarya is more about fixing mistakes or punishing sloppy play, less about denying what the enemy team is doing. She could like deny stuff like very clear-cut examples like Roadhog, for example, but she can't deny stuff that isn't predictable. So if Hanzo just fires an arrow, like it's very hard for the Zarya to react to where that arrow is going and block it, but Diva can kind of react to what the Hanzo is doing and block the arrow and deny it, but Zarya can't. The arrow will just hit and kill the target before Zarya can protect it. So Zarya sort of fixes sloppiness. She can save people out of position, and then she sets up bigger plays. It's more that she can facilitate other people rather than deny what other people are trying to do. So she can help people get into position to do things. She can help McCree get a Deadeye off. She can help Genji do a lot more with Dragon Blades, for example. If you see a Genji Dragon Blading in, put a bubble on him because it stops stuff like Earth Shatter, it stops stuff like Sleep Dart, all that kind of stuff. Can teach you how to say it at Gamescom. Could be interesting. Giving me German lessons, I think I'll need a few beers. Helden sterben nicht. Best and worst game modes for Zarya? I don't like Zarya on 2CP defense. I'll go right out and say that. The reason why is because Zarya has very clear power spikes. So if you draw a graph, let's use red because it shows up better. I don't know, power, time. So if we don't consider the ultimate and we just consider her base abilities, okay? Zarya, with all her cooldowns up, has relatively high power, or pressure, I suppose might be better. It's relatively high power. She uses her own bubble, that drops significantly. She uses another bubble, that drops significantly. And then she'll have a lag time until these start coming back up off cooldown. And now I have drawn a penis of power. And then as she uses abilities again, it will drop back down. Or it might be more a case of like, I'll drop down, go here, and then you can bait out the other one, and then this will cut, and then, ugh, no, I've drawn that wrong. So it'll drop down, then you'll use your other bubble, and then one of your bubbles come back, and then your other bubble comes back, and so on, so on, so on, so on. The problem with defense is that you don't have initiative, so what the enemy team can do is they can try and bait out your projected barriers, and they can try and just keep an eye on, oh, Zarya's got no bubble, let's dive Zarya. And Zarya can't do shit about that anymore. She will die. So that's why Zarya is relatively vulnerable in my mind on 2CP. That's why I prefer like Roadhog, for example, because Roadhog is just much more resilient at getting dived, although Roadhog now is dubious. But that's why, like, normally you would see the off-tank player in olden days, before dive comp really sort of took hold hard, is you would usually see on defense Reinhardt, Roadhog, and on offense Reinhardt, Zarya. Because Zarya is a lot better offensively. When you're engaging, you put a bubble on someone, they can go and do something. You can time your gravitons better. You can do more with the gravs. It's more likely to get results and all that kind of stuff. Gives you the good clean wins that you're looking for. So that's where I'd say Zarya is bad. I'd say Zarya is pretty good on any other instance. She can be dubious on 2CP. Not 2CP, on King of the Hill. Bloody hell. With brains all over the place, clearly. The reason why is because sometimes King of the Hill, like if it's going super fast, if you're getting your shit pushed in, Zarya is not the pick. Because what will end up happening is you will just never get momentum, and then you'll just never get over 10 charge, and you'll never get an ultimate in any rounds. And you'll fire one graviton all game. That's not good. You need something with more out-the-box power. So I say, like, anytime you're losing, you have no momentum, that's when you want to really try and do that. When Diva starts using Defense Matrix, there is a short cooldown until she can use it again. Can you use grab during that period? Yes, but only do so if you know that she's used a lot of Defense Matrix, and only do so if you know you can peel like if you can kill the mech relatively quickly. The reason why is this: there is nothing worse than getting the grav out and then having D.Va just sitting in defense matrix. Okay, congratulations. You fired off the grab, but no one died because D.Va just ate everything. And sure, the Reinhardt can get in and maybe get rid of her. People then have to react and try and get rid of the D.Va first before they can actually do anything. And, you know, it's the nightmare situation I was dreading on the video we were watching where, okay, the grab's gone in, but then Pharah just blocks the barrage, sound barrier goes out, no one takes any damage, and then they just push out and win. Like, it can happen. Be very careful about doing that. Make sure that you, when that happens, just left click the and laser down the D.Va as quickly as possible, because she will, if she's good, prioritize defense matrixing any incoming damage, because she can sort of redeem herself by, oh, I didn't get Graviton, but I can stop all this killing us. What is the best area map and why is it King's Row? Zarya is very good in King's Row because it's very flat, is sort of the traditional reason. Zarya works very well on any map without much radicality, because if Zarya, like, she has powerful right click, she has a very simple left click, and it's just a very straight, you know, it's a straight line of damage with limited range. So she wants fights to be relatively close range or mid range. If not, she wants to be firing down from the high ground, but in King's Row, you never defend really from high ground. So there's no position for her to really be strong on and spam downwards. Or rather, there's no high ground for anyone to be on and be spammed downwards upon. Everyone's pretty much on the same level as Zarya, so it's very easy for her to just get right clicks in there. Well, on something like Watchpoint Gibraltar, for example, if you're attacking and you're trying to shoot upwards, it's trickier to get into those positions where you're getting that damage out there. There's also just like a lot of narrow pathways, a lot of narrow corners where Graviton Surge just works extremely well, and so you can do a lot with that, and people can usually play around your barriers pretty well as well. So like, it's a map that favors the mid-range, and Zarya is very good at mid-range. Zarya is very good at short range as well, and King's Row favors those angles. Like, it's very easy for her to get into a good position, do a lot of damage, do a lot of work, so she's good on King's Row. I'd say she's okay on Hollywood first point, although if you like playing more around high ground, it struggles a bit. Hollywood second point, she just drops off the face of the fucking earth, but Hollywood third point, she can kind of come back with a vengeance, because it's very hard to push through that choke point with Zarya just sort of holding it down, or Zarya just pushing through it, for example, and just mowing people down with her left clicks and right clicks. It's kind of tricky. Oh, an old high TI Zarya back. Zarya's highest charge ever really been hard, like super hard nerfed? I don't think it has. I know that the bottom, like Zarya's range of damage used to be enormous, and then it got sort of changed to be more like this. I think they increased the speed that you bleed charge as well. What I vaguely remember. When trying to gain charge, do I spray bubbles together or stagger them? Staggering them is better, more efficient. It kind of depends on what you need. Like, if all 6 of the enemy team are staring you down and you just throw both bubbles up and get to 80 charge very quickly, that works as a very powerful deterrent for them to push in. So it's more about sort of trying to just slow down the enemy team and push them back. If you are still just in building, the enemy team isn't in position yet, staggering works better because that's less, because basically there's a lag time that you have where since the last time you gain charge is when the timer starts, and then when the timer hits a certain point you'll start losing charge. So you want to minimize that time with your cooldown. So the best way to do that is to project a barrier on, well, put a barrier on yourself, wait for that to burn off, put a barrier on someone else, wait for that to burn off, and then that will maximize your uptime. So that's a most effective way, but sometimes you just need to get a lot of charge very quickly, in which case you want to just put it on both. Do you think the new hog is good, or should the nerfs get reverted? If the nerfs get reverted, the buff needs to get reverted as well, which is on Roadhog's head hitbox. You want to be a little bit careful with that. I'd say no is my gut instinct. I think people still need to get used to it, and I think the meta right now like favors fast kills, and Roadhog no longer delivers those super well, and I just give it time. Like, I think there's still a need to, like, with any Blizzard game this seems to happen, where there's like an instantaneous reaction to any nerf, which is, oh no, this is terrible, this is the worst thing ever, this hero is fucking gone, it's broken, it's broken, it's broken. We had months, fucking months of people whining on the forums just saying D.Va needs buffs. Non-stop. D.Va got nerfed, her damage output got lowered, and people whined incessantly that D.Va was now useless, she's garbage, she's Z tier, she's bottom tier, no one wants to play D.Va, D.Va's terrible, she's awful, she's awful, she's awful, she's awful. And now we're in a situation where D.Va is the most cried for hero in terms of nerfs. Maybe Tracer might be a bit higher. Maybe. It's usually D.Va that sort of gets more rage. Balance is tricky. It's very, very tricky to get a good feel for balance out of like an initial gut reaction, which is why I'm always very careful when trying to explain, like, okay, this doesn't feel quite as powerful as it should. I think Roadhog has a place still. I just think the meta doesn't favor what Roadhog can bring to the team now with these changes, which is very strong anti-tank and very strong sort of position denial. But right now, heroes are being played that have very good repositioning, so there's not much opportunity to punish that. And D.Va's getting played a lot, which also denies him out quite heavily. So yeah, like, give it time, because the meta could swing and Hog could come back in. I'm actually going to say, like, be careful with this, Gohan. Like, as much as I love seeing the results coming in, I'm going to watch it later, and I don't want it fully spoiled. Don't want it spoiled. So be kind. There might be people waiting to watch the VODs, for example. I'm not, like, super miffed, but just be careful putting results in chat. Is it better to save bubbles in case of emergency, or saving the support for getting pick abilities and to get more charge, or both options? So I'll cover it again very quickly, just in case you haven't heard this before, but with Zarya, I have, like, my 3-step program to powerlifting. Step 1 is building. So build. Step 2, maintain. You can read my handwriting on a fucking mouse. And then 3 is alt. Okay, so you spend most of your time. Ideally, if you're having a good game, you'll spend most of your time in this phase. This phase is basically, I am on 0 to 40 charge. I need to get more charge to be effective to do damage. If I don't, I'm not going to do anything. This is when you want to be using your bubbles more liberally. Because if you're on 0 charge, you're going to provide so little damage. You've got a wet noodle. It's going to take you 3 seconds to kill anything. It's bad, bad, sad, bad, frown town. Bad time. So you want to get out of this phase relatively quickly. If the enemy team is like fishing super aggressively with hooks, then sure, you can maybe hold on to your projector barrier a bit or play around with that and play a little bit more cautiously, but in general, you can afford to be more aggressive with them. When you hit maintain, which is usually between like 60 to 100 charge, this is when you can be a little bit more passive and just wait for better opportunities. Wait for when a Helix rocket is already flying in, put a bubble on someone. Wait for the Roadhog to land a hook, put a bubble on someone. Like, this is when you're really holding on to them for that more reactive instance, but just be careful, like, once you drop below 50, that you're sort of back in this phase, so then you want to get back here as fast as you can. Ultimate is sort of the bonus phase where, okay, you have ultimate, now you're changing how you're playing because you need to just prioritize in getting the best grab you humanly can. So your priorities have shifted from being like a passive tank to being maybe more aggressive, more opportunistic, and trying to find ways to get your ult into position. So when you're building, you'll be positioning aggressively, you'll be running in front of the Reinhardt barrier, putting yours up, soaking up. When you're maintaining, you'll be playing more passively, and you'll be sort of hiding behind the Reinhardt barrier a bit more, playing a little bit more cautiously, and being a bit more selective with your bubbles. And then with ultimate, that's the third change in playstyle, where you're looking to get your ultimate out and deploy it somewhere. You'll be pushing in aggressively, you're trying to kill divas, stuff like that. On Hanamura, if you have a team that can get all the way to the left-hand side on the second point of attack, should you generally try to grab that spot versus the general tight right-hand side, or is there too little cover on that high side on the high ground? For the first push, I'd say it's fine, because it's a shorter distance, so you can just get to the point faster. The danger with doing that is, A, like, you can say, oh, everyone on this team can theoretically get across there. Like, Lucio can get across that gap. And then Lucio fucks it up and dies for no reason. I'd also say that you still run into the same problem that you would have just pushing in main. Or if you think about Hanamura, if I draw like a schematic, I like my schematics. Stairs here, spawn is here, spawn is over here, little area here, you got the bit here, point is this, and you got like a choke here, it goes up to here, there's a choke here, and then you got like the balcony here, here. I guess this is a bit further up, but you get the general gist, okay? Normal attack paths, you'll push in here and try and get into this, in which case you're going through a narrow choke point here, you're going through a narrow choke point here, or you're going through a narrow choke point sort of out here. Although getting out here is actually relatively safe, and actually quite strong if you have a couple of people running this way to put pressure on the high ground, and then a couple of people pushing up this way. Works relatively well. The danger of pushing out this side is you're pushing through a narrow choke point here, where the enemy team has very clear line of sight on you. So it's very easy for them to see you're coming out of here and shoot down onto you, and then they can just easily send like a D.Va down to contest the point, for example, and slow you down. Alternatively, you can try and get out here, but it's kind of the same problem, right? You're running into the line of sight of the enemy team, and you're doing it through a narrow choke point. So I'd say that this is actually weaker than you would expect, because at least when you're coming through main, you're pretty much on the point when the enemy team can see you. Like, the enemy team can see you when you start crossing the bridge over here. And so I'd say, like, be very careful with just pushing out of this. This works as a nice surprise. Like, if you just got to cap 1/3 of the point, this can work quite nicely. Or if you're doing a transition from first point to second, if you can all go left, then do it, because that will get you there that much faster and you'll be able to contest the points super quickly. But if the enemy team's set up on high ground, it's not going to work very well. The trick to using this is to have most of your team come this way and then have like a pharmacy come this way, because then the pharmacy can relatively safely bounce between these two areas and push out and put pressure on the high ground pretty easily, while the rest of your team pushes up here, and it becomes very difficult and awkward just to stay up here and survive. So you're sort of making it awkward for the team. Widowmaker can kind of do the same, where you're just putting pressure on, although Widowmaker can technically do the same from over here as well, and you get line of sight like this. You can actually do quite a lot with that. So it's just generally more for opportunistic characters, and characters that can do a lot of damage from a flanking route. That's when you're looking to use those pathways more. With mobility being king at the moment, what's needed to be done to make slower comps like Deathball work, I'm guessing? New strategy that is unknown right now, a buff, a nerf, a change to key heroes. I'd say the biggest thing is the nerf to Tracer, and I think that people are going to hold off on changing anything else or trying anything too experimental until Tracer gets nerfed. And once Tracer gets nerfed, everything changes. Right now, a lot of the power of dive is just purely off the back of Tracer. She can kill most heroes in a second if played to the highest level. She can ult every like 30, well, more like every 45 seconds to a minute. And she can just wipe out teams. Like, she's incredibly hard to deal with. She's just very, 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 very good at the moment. So there's just nothing that really stops her. And until we see something change that makes that work, it's just, ugh. I say on ladder, like playing triple tank into, or playing like even a very resolute deathball comp with like Soldier and McCree, or like if you just play triple tank with like right, you could play like Reinhardt, D.Va, Roadhog, or Reinhardt, D.Va, Zarya, Soldier, Mercy, Zenyatta, and just stand and fight, and you'll probably beat most dive comps played in pub games. Like, it will honestly work extremely well unless the dive is really efficient and your team fucks up. Because it's actually quite hard to beat triple tank as dive. It takes a little bit of finesse and skill, and it takes people playing correctly, diving the right things and just focusing right. And if that doesn't happen, you just don't win the fights, because your damage output is lower than theirs, because flankers have good burst damage but don't have good sustained damage, while Soldier 76 does more sustained damage. Even Roadhog or Zarya will do more sustained damage once they get rolling. So it sort of gets very tricky for those characters to actually get off the ground. It also makes stuff like makes Dragon Blade less efficient, stuff like that. So I'd say with like right now, the Tracer nerf is probably going to be the first thing we'll see. And then after that, we'll see what comps emerge. It's going to be interesting to see. I'd also say that right now Deathball could be on its last legs, because Reaper is actually getting picked up quite a lot, just to deal with anything tanky. Like, if teams are running a tanky comp, Reaper has got a lot stronger at dealing with tanks, because he can just self-heal off them super reliably, and he's become like a really good tank buster. If I pre-bubble a teammate to protect him from a Widow one-shot, is that considered a bad bubble? No. If people are actually trying to like 1v1 a Widow, or like Soldier is trying to put pressure on Widow, then just like, don't be afraid to put a bubble on them. Widowmakers tend to take the shot. Like, they will reaction fire into bubbles pretty often. So if they're running out into a Widowmaker's line of sight and trying to get a kill, put a bubble on them, just to be safe. Two homes is this Tam, two amongst many. Feels bad, man. To the last patch, I usually switched to Roadhog when my team was on low damage. Since Hog is dead now, is Zarya the hero to go to? Talking platinum rank. If I don't switch to a DPS, because people will start getting angry if I switch off 222. So I'm going to give you the simple and short answer. Swap to D.Va. D.Va is just better right now than both Zarya and Roadhog. I still think that the idea that Roadhog is dead is very extreme. I think Hook is still extremely good and on a very low cooldown. Can still get a lot of work done. He still shits all over barriers, and his ability to kill people with left and right click is better than it used to be. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm Israeli right here. I'm Brazilian. Hey, see? So we've got at least one more Israeli. We've got 2 Israelis, apparently. Interesting. I like that this is when I started answering questions, and I've just got to here now. Oh, so many questions. I like answering questions. I take my time with them. So I'd say D.Va is the ideal. Zarya isn't a bad pick. Like, if you are good at Zarya, then Zarya is pretty much universally a good pick. Until, like, top 500, Zarya will still be effective. And you'll see top 500 Zarya is still fucking rocking it. So, yeah, Zarya will pretty much always be a solid pick at the moment. Until she takes any kind of nerf, I imagine Zarya will always be okay. Like, if you're a good Zarya player, you can carry on Zarya. You'll only gain charge if they shoot Reinhardt's barrier in a particular place. Well, yeah, they have to be shooting like Reinhardt's barrier where the bubble actually is, but you get the idea. Very rare that they don't. Tenders. The Whisper. I whispered you a question. I didn't think I'd post it here because it's too long. Okay, so that you do want this addressing here and now. I've seen Hoon, who plays for Meta Athena in Apex Season 2, which Devolvery turns Zarya basically into an unkillable machine with 100 plus charge. If he's got over 100 charge, I'll be impressed. He played this one match on Ilios where he had his team committed to spawn trapping Envy and succeeding in 3 pushes, and he never died. In Apex Season 3, when Envy had effect instead of Internet Hulk, the same case in King's Row happened, but Meta Athena was the one trapped in spawn, but Hoon was on 100 charge at 5 HP. I'd like to know how on earth a Zarya can carry that hard and not die, but he stayed alive all the way until the last point. Like, what does Zarya have to do to get carry potential like that? I actually noticed the same thing with Crew, French player. Very, like, back when Misfits started really taking off, and Misfits was playing well, Crew was on Misfits. I think it was Crew. Relatively confident. I might be talking bullshit. Who knows? I get people mixed up all the time. But his Zarya was like having an extra DPS. And it was just because A, he was better at tracking, but B, his bubbles were just constantly on fucking point. So he was hitting 100 charge, and then he was just capitalizing while he had that advantage. Because when you're on 100 charge as Zarya, you are technically overpowered. Like, if you think about perfect balance for Zarya, okay, if Zarya spends most of her time at, just for the sake of this argument, she spends most of her time at 50% charge, this is where Blizzard are balancing. Like, this point here. They are mostly balancing around what is Zarya's normal state, okay? So Zarya has to be on par with every other hero at about 50% charge, in theory. So when you're on 100% charge, you are overpowered as fuck. Because you deal way too much damage, you are relatively tanky, you are very survivable, you're hard to punish, and you kill everything way faster than it kills you. Conversely, when you're on 0% charge, put it down here, you are underpowered as fuck. So you are much weaker. And so this is why that maintaining aspect is so important, because if you are not on high charge, you are effectively less than one whole hero. Your value to the team is just that much less. When you're on super high charge, you're overpowered as hell. So getting to that high charge is ridiculously important. The best areas can get there reliably, know how to sort of capitalize on enemy team habits, and you know, so when the Winston jumps in, the bubble's already in position. The Winston also knows not to drop his own bubble. He's good at just catching damage as it comes in. He's good at spotting where the source of the damage are and blocking that accordingly. Good at getting in position to do that, and then getting good at just tracking, getting the damage out when you need it, getting the right clicks in the right position, and just shelling the shit out of the enemy team, picking the right targets, and optimizing their damage output. That is the hallmark of good Zaryas. Like, the bubbles have to be on point. Once the bubbles are on point, then you have to be able to apply that damage. When you start doing that correctly, Zarya becomes a fucking monster. And when you're just better than everyone else in the game, yeah, you can carry the shit out of a team with Zarya. Because what's nice about playing Zarya as well is that if you do feel like you're in meta hell or in elo hell, what ends up happening is that you'll have teammates that throw. Like, they do stupid things, get out of position, and die. Zarya is a hero that can stop that happening, and Ana's kind of the same as well, which is why it was relatively easy to climb on Ana back when she did 100% bonus healing, because anytime people got out of position, you could bail them out. So you could correct other people's shitty errors and still be rewarded for it as well, with getting faster ultimates, getting higher charge on Zarya's case, and just doing a shitload of work. So that's sort of how you try and get that with Zarya and try and optimize that as much as you can. It's then up to the enemy team to punish you and try and get rid of you. Like, if you are on 100% charge and you just manage to keep maintaining that, the enemy team has to commit a shitload of resources to killing you. And once they start doing that, you can just start playing defensively and start trying to bait them into it and just keep killing and keep killing and keep working. Zarya is very, very snowbally, and so once you start applying that, it just works like a fucking dream. She's really, really quite strong. Yeah, if you're asking questions like at, you can see what other people are doing. You can see the name. Let's get the clip for now. Which flavor of ice cream is 100% charged Zarya? Death Star. Is Mercy pocketing a Roadhog feasible for instant kills? Yes. But there might be better uses than pocketing the Roadhog. Like, if you see Roadhog, if you hear the hook connect, then by all means just right-click on Roadhog just to kill him. But pocketing Roadhog, I'd say, is a bad idea. The nice thing about having a Roadhog is you're going to have Resurrect every single fight. So, yeah. Fire is still the one cried over the most. Diva is still weak offline, Reaper is shit, and Symmetra is too strong. The forearms in a nutshell. It's crazy. Okay, Farah being cried over, I can understand. I think Pharmacy is still, it's kind of bullshit at the moment. And Diva is just overpowered as fuck. Reaper is in an interesting position. Reaper is situational, but when the situation is right, my god is he good. Do you usually coach DPS characters as well? I actually coach support more than anything. DPS I will coach, but we did a recent spate. Like, we did a lot of Tracer recently, and we've done some Genji relatively recently as well, but I do want to get more DPS footage in. If you have DPS footage, send it in. Thanks for the info on the match. Oh, if some people if some people want to know it, then it's tricky. Like, part of me doesn't want to be spoiled. I want to just watch it blind, but what's the best positioning when playing a defensive dive? So you just want to be relatively far back. Like, we've seen this more and more in Hollywood, for example, where on the pro meta. So if I schematic Hollywood out very quickly, you got like the building here. This is like the high ground area. Little pillar here. And you got like the cafe over here. The point is here. And then you got like the choke here. Then you got like the pathway here. Drawn this like in a really stupid way. Kind of how that effectively works. And then you got like a wall over here. You got like the back, super far back area over here. Okay? Hollywood, right? This is Hollywood. There's a car here. Okay? Teams normally on ladder, let's take blue, will normally defend here, right? They'll usually sort of try and hold in this area. And you'll usually have like a couple of people up here. And so the way that dives usually work is they'll try and circumvent this, and they'll just go straight in and try and dive this back line. What you're seeing high level teams do now is they're more defending like all the way back here. And they're pretty much staying as a single unit. And this is especially true for counter dive, because what ends up happening is the enemy team dives in. They have to dive when they hit this corner, because now they're in line of sight of the enemy team, so they have to make the dive. They'll jump in, be positioned in front of the team, and then this is where their team sort of counter dives or just blows at the Winston, does a response, basically. And so you usually see these super sort of defensive holds coming out here. So usually when you're counter diving, you want to have a position where the enemy team can see you and they sort of get tricked into diving into you, and then you try and seize the advantage when they do that, where you just turn around and try and explode what dives you. It's a tricky thing to do, but if everyone's on the same page, it works extremely well. It's just a matter of like the Winston jumps on you and then you just jump on the Winston and explode him. And I can see in chat, defensive dive is such a paradoxical concept for me. Let me explain very simply with just most of the team. So this is our team. Our team's a bit derpy. This is their team. Their team is very angry. Okay? Our team is great, their team is shit. Their team starts to dive. The Winston jumps in. Stands here. Starts doing damage. Instead of our team, like we're running dive against dive, instead of our team doing exactly the same thing, where our Winston dives in, and goes over here and tries to get onto their team, and all our flankers sort of do the same thing and try and follow that up. What if instead of doing that, our Winston goes here, puts the bubble here, or the bubble on top of our team, for example, blocks any source of damage coming out from this way, and then just bursts the shit out of the Winston where no one can actually get healing to him, because Lucio's got to get all the way around and try and get through the barrier to get some healing onto him. There's a Zenyatta orb on him, but it's only 30 health per second. You can blow through that. D.Va might still be getting into position, and so it becomes very hard for their team to actually do anything. So you basically just counter what they're trying to do and kill whatever's coming in at you. The reason why it works so effectively is just people don't expect it. Like, Winston will jump in, and they're getting used to it now, where your team will also be doing the same thing. Or your team doesn't commit hard enough to killing the Winston. But if you commit super hard to it, he dies so fast. Like, 600 hit points is not as much as you think. So it's relatively easy to do. It's just some sort of having everyone on the same page, because the worst thing that can happen, and what usually happens on the ladder, is that Winston will go for a counter dive, for example, and just try and shut down their Winston. Meanwhile, your Tracer's doing this and, like, trying to pepper into this. But she's not really doing anything. Major source of DPS is gone. Genji Winston can't kill Winston that quickly. You need the Tracer's DPS. And so that gives their team time to get into position. They have 3 people DPSing. You have 2. They win, basically. Think Anna will get more playtime if teams decide to run Reaper? Probably. Anna's playtime will go up the more teams gravitate away from Tracer Genji. Is Sombra viable against Dive? EMP just ruins Winston. The problem with Sombra is that she takes time. So you'll probably lose the first engagement. Like, I'm thinking mostly on King of the Hill here. Defensive Sombra is extremely good on 2CP. Which is kind of interesting, because like on second point she's extremely good, and especially on maps with health packs relatively near the point. Temple of Anubis is the obvious one, because there's a health pack literally under the point. You just make sure everyone's standing on that as much as possible, get the EMP built up instantly, and you can win every fight. Volskaya is a bit trickier, because the health packs aren't quite as near, and aren't quite as easy to pick up. And Horizon should actually be really good for Sombra as well. Because there's health packs right next to the point. Like, there's the health pack next to the little Martian lander thing, or lunar lander thing, so you can put hack on that, for example. People can just pick that up. Feel pretty good. What's the other 2CP map? Why am I forgetting one? I'm blanking it out of my mind. Hanamura, we just watched it literally. Hanamura's a bit trickier, defensively as well, I'd say. Temple of Anubis is where she really shines. I'd say on other maps it's trickier, and the issue is as well that, like, you have to be holding near a health pack, and then, yeah, sure, if they dive in, you just EMP, it works a fucking treat, but the second that they get any kind of advantage, they can just turn around and win. So you got to be very careful with the Sombra. Like, you really have to be competent, and Sombra cannot die before the EMP goes off, and has to be getting EMP super fast. So she has to hack health packs. People have to use them. In ranked play, that's very hard to be dependent on that. Scroll down. That'll be the reason why they're known to be Zarya. Metathena, because 100% charge. Yeah, nanoing Zarya's on high charge is very good. Who are the best Zarya players in your opinion? It's actually hard to say, because Zarya doesn't get played that much. So, unfortunately, I cannot tell you. I can tell you that Team GB has a really fucking good Zarya on it, but beyond that, like, it's kind of a pity that she's out of meta. I think that is about it for questions. What up, Elijah? Welcome. There we go, I think that's about it. Laser Curtains have been using Sombra on King of the Hill. It's very interesting to watch. Should be. Looking forward to seeing that. Remember you saying on the record you didn't like the defensive Sombra, and actually seems more viable in the defense rather than offense. So how the meta changes over time. It's more that, like, Temple of Anubis has become very standard with the Sombra. I'm still dubious on it on ranked. I think a lot of things have to go right. Spree's very good Zarya, yeah. Cafe, very good Zarya, but in terms of, like, the best areas in the world, I'm not so sure. Spree is extremely good, though. If you want to watch good Zarya players, yeah, Cafe, Spree, both extremely good. Crew, if he's streaming, but I think Crew streams in French, so that would be difficult. Just trying to think off the top of my head, like anyone who really jumps out. I'm sure there's a bunch of good ones. But they're probably all playing Tracer at the moment anyway. They're probably very unlikely they're playing Zarya, except for Cafe, maybe. Cafe. Because he usually just plays it. Let us know. You'll be good, yeah. Otherwise, I think that wraps it up for questions. So, if you do want to send in more footage, please do for next week. And yeah, so send it into coaching. So if you want to send your coaching footage in, send it into oamreviews@gmail.com. Email it in, include in the title the hero name and include the rank. And then, yeah, just include a little description as well of what happened in the game. Just helps me sort of get an idea of what's going on there. And then, yeah, I'll take a look at some point probably, and I'll maybe pick it for the show. Some DPS footage will be great at the moment. Someone mentioned Torbjorn earlier. I don't have Torbjorn footage either. If you just play Torbjorn on defense, like if a bunch of people send in Torbjorn footage and they all send it in on defense, then, yeah, like that makes life easy. Because then I can just like focus on, okay, well, let's watch this person do Torbjorn defense. Let's watch this person do Torbjorn defense. Watch this person do Torbjorn defense. So yeah. CoolMat69, also really good on Zarya. True, although I'm not sure how he rates against like the top tier Zaryas. Really. It's hard to measure like people's strength against each other when people aren't playing a certain hero. It's kind of sad. Beyond that, yeah, thank you guys for watching to the end. Do feel free to join us live as well, 10 PM British time, Friday and Saturday. Hopefully I'll see you there. Coaching the Many next week should be on Friday and Sunday, because I believe the tournament next week is going to be a North America tournament, so Scrim Central tournament will be running a bit later, and as a result, we have to move Coaching the Many onto the Sunday, which is fair enough. Hopefully you guys had a good time. Hopefully you guys learned something from this, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. Toodles.